go, but my plans got derailed.
Yeah.
I knew exactly where I wanted to be, but I found myself exactly where I didn't. And for the life of me, I could not figure out how in the world I got there. I'd gone too far and I'd stayed too long before I realized that the place where I was absolutely was not the place that God meant for me. Is there anybody in here that let a family disagreement get you separated from the love that y'all used to share? Yeah. Is it anybody in here that let gluttony and addiction drive you far away from the good health you used to have? Is it somebody in the house that allowed the struggle to drag you away from your covenant with God? I don't want anybody to feel ashamed, because whether we admit it or not, all of us have experienced a moment in time where we found ourselves somewhere that we should never have been. Yeah, we're like the Israelites in the text today. The Bible story picks up after the Israelites had been in bondage in Egypt for hundreds of years. Yeah. I said hundreds of years. And Egypt was most certainly a place that the Israelites should never have been. Yeah. In Egypt, they didn't believe in their God. And in Egypt, they were made slaves and mistreated. In Egypt, their bondage was harsh and unrelenting. In Egypt, they were nothing more than property to be used however their slave masters wished. Egypt was a place that the Israelites didn't belong. Egypt was a place that meant no good to God's people. Now, does that make it a little clearer for us? Poverty is our Egypt. Depression is our Egypt. Divorce is our Egypt. Obesity is our Egypt. Fear is our Egypt. Addiction is our Egypt. Egypt is a place where God's people should not be. Egypt is a place that we were never meant to reside. Egypt is not our home, and it is not safe for us to stay there.
That's right.
Egypt is a strange and it is a harmful. Unemployment is our Egypt. Bankruptcy is our Egypt. Compromise is our Egypt. Judgment is our Egypt. And I don't know about you, but too many times I find myself waking up in Egypt morning after morning. I go to bed in Egypt and I work all day in Egypt. I lay down in Egypt. And when the sun rises the next day, do you know where I find myself again? I'm right back in Egypt. Does nobody know anything about Egypt in this house? Yeah, Egypt is where you can't find no joy. And Egypt is where you can't find your peace. Egypt is where the enemy holds you captive and uses you however he likes. I'm talking about Egypt. Egypt is where our children can't thrive. And Egypt is where our leaders are overt racists. And Egypt is where the scales are tipped against us. Egypt is where the wicked never cease from trouble. I need to know in the house today, if anybody came in the house of God just for a few minutes to get away from your Egypt. Now I need to talk to some folks in here that'll say, I didn't come in here from the promised land. I came in greater joy this morning to get away from Egypt. I came to the house of God just for an hour or so, because I know that when I leave here, I might have to go right back into Egypt. Will you just look at somebody this morning and say, I came here to get out of my Egypt? Well, if that's you this morning, then you're about to walk in your own prophecy today, because I want to encourage somebody enslaved by the trials and tribulations. And I want to spend a few moments talking about what we're going to do when we get out of Egypt. Yeah, I need to talk about it because I got a prophecy for you today, Drea. Egypt is almost over. We need to put it in place because our time in Egypt is extremely limited. And we need to know what we're about to do, because the Lord told me to uplift the people today so that we can be ready when we come come out of Egypt. Will you look at somebody beside you and say, Egypt ain't got long? So what are we going to do? What's the game plan, Ashmir? What happens after Egypt? What are we going to do when the heavy weight is lifted off of us? What are we going to do when breakthrough comes through? What's the plan after we get delivered? How is it going to be after we come out of Egypt? Well, as always, we go to the Word of God. Yeah. And it's always got a plan in it. Let's see. Once we come out of Egypt, we're going to make the enemy fear for his territory. Listen, Moses and the Israelites did not go to Moab and threaten them. They didn't seek out Midian and threaten their land. But because their enemies had heard about them, as soon as they got close to them, the enemy began to fear. Because, see, they had defeated the king of Arad, and they defeated the Amorites, and they defeated the forces of Og, and the enemy had heard about it. So when they came close to them, their enemies immediately became fearful about their territory. This is what we're going to do when we come out of Egypt. When we come out of Egypt, our enemies are going to start talking about us when we even get close to them. Our enemy is going to get antsy about what we might be able to do in his territory. Now, let me teach very, very closely here today, because when I talk about the enemy, I'm not talking about people. That's not what I teach, and that's not what I believe. Our enemy is the enemy of God. It's Satan and all of the evil that he represents. Now, I know that sometimes he uses people, but all evil comes from Satan. That's right. So when we think about our enemy, there might be people that he uses, but all of the blame needs to be focused on him. The enemy is the one that's going to be afraid when we come out of Egypt, because he understands that our deliverance means that he's in danger of losing some of his major strongholds. He knows that our exodus from Egypt means his exodus from his territory. In other words, Tasha, when we get out of this current Egypt, it demonstrates to the enemy that we now know what we need to do to get delivered. That's it. So the territory that he's always held is now in jeopardy, because now we understand our power to take the territory back. The enemy has territory in our homes. The enemy has territory in our minds. The enemy has territory in our hearts. And once we get out of Egypt, he's going to be afraid that now we know how to flip the script and infiltrate his territory. Let me see if I can break it down this morning. Once I get out of addiction, I know better how to get out of debt. Once I get out of depression, then I know better how to get out of jealousy. Once I get out of pride, I know better how to get out of fear. You see, because as God's children, every stronghold that we break only gives us more confidence to break the next stronghold. So when we come out of this Egypt, the enemy should be worried about the remainder of his territory. Will you look at somebody beside you and say, do the same thing again? Look at somebody on the other side and do the same thing again. How you got out last time is how you gonna get out this time. How did you defeat the last enemy in your life? How did you make it through the last struggle that you went through? Find somebody else and say, do the same thing again. How did you overcome before? How did you stop crying before? How did you make it through before? Because when you broke that last stronghold, the enemy should have gotten worried about the next stronghold. Because for everyone that I break, it only makes me stronger to break another one. Somebody say stronghold after stronghold. Come on, say stronghold after stronghold after stronghold after stronghold after stronghold. I need somebody in the house today that'll say, I'm serving notice on my enemy, that I'm clearing the land, and you family. Secondly, I need the enemy to understand that once we get out of Egypt, our price goes up. We didn't read the entire story today, but Brother Rodney taught it in Sunday school. If we go through the whole story, we read that as Moab and Midian went to see Balaam, he refused to go and curse God's people. So what they did then was raise the amount of money and prestige they were willing to give him to curse God's people. After they came out of Egypt, God's people were that strong. They were that powerful. And there were so many of them that their enemies were willing to go to great lengths to try and defeat them. And so it is with you. The stronger you get and the more powerful you become, it causes the enemy to put much more at stake to try and take you out. Can I tell you something, people of God? That's why the attacks are coming hard. That's why the struggle is getting realer. It's not because God values you less. It's because your price went up. You were not worth as much to the enemy before you got committed. You weren't worth as much to the enemy before you knew what you were worth to God. But now that you got the victory through Jesus Christ, the price on your head has increased. Come on, encourage somebody today and say, when the enemy saw you getting closer, your price went up. Now I need you to look at somebody that's going through. I need you to look at somebody that ain't all together today and say, God didn't forget about you. The enemy came at you harder because your price went up. It's harder to take you out now. It's harder to get you to turn around now. It's harder to get you to go back now. Those lies that you used to believe, it's harder to get you to believe them now. Because now that you got out of Egypt, the enemy understands your value. If you mean nothing to God, God would have left you in your Egypt. Since you got out of Egypt, the enemy understands what God thinks of you. The enemy understands how much God needs you. I need somebody to get flat-footed in the house and look the enemy dead in his face and say, you underestimated my value.
You underestimated my value.
I need somebody to talk to the enemy. If he's been running you all week long and you still didn't let him take you out. If he's been all up and through your family and you still didn't let him break y'all up. If he's been trying to take you outside after side, I need you to talk to the enemy and say, you underestimated my value.
You underestimated my value.
God loves me. Even in Egypt,
You love me.
coming to get me out.
Yes.
Underestimated what I was worth to God. Can I just teach the enemy for a moment? The blood raised my bounty. When God died on Calvary for me, it upped the ante on my life. When God shed his blood on the cross, it made me so much more valuable. I need to tell somebody the truth today. If it seems like you're going through, if it seems like the enemy's trying to kill you, if it seems like it's attack after attack, if it seems like the enemy won't quit until you die, the truth is he is trying to kill you. The truth is he is trying to take your family. The truth is he is trying to take your mind. The enemy wants you dead or alive. But will somebody throw your head back and say, but today, I live. But today, I'm still alive. In the midst of my Egypt. I need you to raise your head and say, you want me dead or alive? I live. When I get out of Egypt, you better get ready to get on the run. Tell the people of God some people in here that'll get bold in your faith and say, oh, I believe.
Oh, I believe.
I'm about to come out of
I'm
Egypt.
about to come out of
And
Egypt.
when I get out of
And
Egypt,
when I get out.
I'm taking the enemy's territory.
Yeah.
When I get out of Egypt, my price is going to go up.
It's going up.
And when I get out of Egypt, God is going to increase me. The reason Moab and Midian didn't attack Israel was because there was too many of them. And they knew they couldn't beat them. The Bible says they were fertile and they increased in number and power after they came out of Egypt. The Bible says they increased in number and in power after they came out of Egypt. No greater joy, y'all not hearing me. Greater joy, we're going to increase in number.
Yeah.
In power.
Hallelujah.
Individually.
Yeah.
Our collective.
Yeah.
After we come out of Egypt.
Yeah.
After the struggle. After the bondage. After the pain. After the crying. After the hurting. After the injustice.
Yeah.
After the smoke clears. Somebody said we're going to increase.
We're gonna increase.
In power. Just encourage somebody today. It's like me in the midst of your Egypt. After you is finished struggling, and after you're finished scraping, after you're finished slaving, God is going to increase you. I dare somebody to lift up your hands for a supernatural increase. I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about houses. I'm talking about power. After I come out of Egypt, I'm going to be more powerful than I ever was before. After I come out of Egypt, that same bondage shall never ensnare me again. Because I got a blessing that cannot be revoked. Because when they said, go curse God's people, God said, don't you curse them. Because I already done blessed them. Will you just fist bump somebody and say, you can't revoke my blessing. You can't take back my blessing.
Can't take back my blessing.
Sickness couldn't take it. Poverty couldn't take it. The streets couldn't take it. Drugs couldn't take it. thinking.
Yeah.
And I need you to blessing for what you gonna do when you get out of Egypt. Come on and shift your mind. This is how I'm gonna help people. This is how I'm going to the next level. This is how I'm changing lives. Out of Egypt. Somebody say, when I come.
When I come
Out of Egypt.
out of Egypt.
When I come.
When I come
Out of Egypt.
out of Egypt.
Somebody throw your hands up and say, not too much longer.
Not too much longer. Not too much longer, God. Thank you, God.
Let's go.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Not too much longer.
Not too much
Will
longer.
you struggle? Not too much longer. Will you cry?
That's right.
Not too much longer. Will you be sick? How will you bless him when you come out of Egypt? How will you lift him up when you come out of Egypt? Somebody open up your mouth and say, anything.
In your hand.
Thank you.
God, I thank you.
God, I thank you.
God, I thank you.
What it's gonna be like
Yeah.
When I come out.
when I come out.
When I come out.
Get out
That's it.
of this Egypt.
Yeah.
This Egypt.
When I get out of this Egypt.
Yes.
I know you're going through. I know you're still there. God said, Kim, don't talk about no donkey. He said, don't tell the story about the angel.
Uh-huh.
Y'all know I would have rode that donkey to glory. But God said, go up a little further.
Uh-huh.
When the enemy looked at him, he said, there are some people who have come out of Egypt. They didn't say the Israelites. See, we don't want people to talk about our past.
All right.
I don't care what you say. But they said there's a people
The people.
came out of Egypt.
That's it.
There's some people that were slaves. There's some people that were crackheads.
Yeah.
There's some people
Yeah.
that were whoremongers. There's some people that were gossipers. There's some people that were judgmental. There were some people who come out of Egypt. They are great people. And I can't defeat them. He said it out of his mouth. He said, I can't defeat them. Unless I get somebody to speak over it. And let me just do my fifth point. Don't worry about who the enemy's getting to speak over you.
Uh-huh.
Because when the enemy came and said, listen, if you say this about them, it'll make it true. And I said, you do not say what is contrary to what I said
Amen.
about God's people.
Amen.
Don't worry about what everybody's saying. What was the blessing that God spoke over you?
Come on.
He had already told his people, I'm taking you out of Egypt.
Yes.
And I'm taking you to the promised land.
Yes.
And all the Israelites were doing was minding their business. Camping out, doing what they were supposed to do. Trying to get to the place where God told them to go. I know that's all you've been doing, baby. Just trying to do your best. Trying to do what God told you to do. And trying to get to the place where God, I know that's what you've been doing. And even when you're minding your own business, the enemy
Yes.
stands over you watching, trying to think of a way to take you out.
Yeah.
Not because of what you're doing right now,
Yeah.
but because of what you could do.
Yeah.
The enemy's not after your now. He's after you after Egypt. He knows what you are going to be capable of after this.
Yeah.
When we get out of Egypt, when we get out of Egypt, when we get out of this dead-end job, when we get out of this bad relationship, when we get out of this family struggle, when we get out of this little building, we're going to be a force.
Amen. Amen.
And the enemy should be fearful about any territory that he now holds.
Yeah.
Any souls
Come
that
on.
he's got his hands on.
Right.
When I get out of this Egypt,
That's right.
he should fear for that territory. The doors of the church are open. If there's one here today that wants to give your life to Christ, come. You don't have to be out of Egypt to come to Christ.
That's right. That's right.
God kept the Israelites even in Egypt, and they kept declaring that he was their God. All you have to do in your current situation is come to him and say, you are my God. Even while I'm still struggling. Even while I'm still in bondage. Call him your God. Come. The second appeal is for those who've been in a relationship with Christ and somehow strayed away, gotten separated. Allowed the enemy to come in. Not people, the enemy to come in and get you separated from the God that you declare.
Yes.
It's happened to all of us
Yes.
at some point or another. Come back to God. Today is your day to say this stronghold is broken today.
Yes, God.
Where you have held me, you will no longer hold me after today.
Yeah.
If you're here, come. The third appeal is for anyone that's looking for a church home. If you're looking for a place full of people who've been in Egypt, who are in Egypt, or who just came out of Egypt, that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to encourage you through every Egypt in your life. If you know that you are in right standing, pray for your neighbor. If you know that you are not,